Booster Gold Flintstones Special Issue 1, uh, which is written by Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Mark Russell, and then art is by Pierre Brito and Rick Leonardi. So I believe there's at least 2 stories in there, given the way that...
Didn't Palmiotti and Connor just do the backup with the Jetsons?
Yeah, they did the backup for the Jetsons, which sets up a Jetsons series, which is probably coming down the line. But
that's fair. But hey, blame Comixology, they put them first, so I put them first.
Yeah. Well,
because they're more notable names.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, shockingly, this is not in continuity at all.
Go!
But it starts with Booster in the future, and he's broke, and him and Skeets are, Skeets is trying to talk him out of going on this date with this girl, but Booster's like, oh no, we can go. And while they're on this date, and the girl's clearly bored, this dinosaur-looking like alien attacks, and basically says he's here to bring a reckoning on Earth for what they did in the past. So Booster jumps in his time sphere to go see what had happened. And because of the rush, he ends up in the Flintstones era and accidentally kills the same type of alien lizard, but who was there to preach peace. And because Booster going back ends up causing the chaos that happens, in the future.
Sounds like a typical Booster Gold comic.
Yeah, right? So they get stuck there, and that's how they end up with the Simpsons, the Flintstones. Where the Simpsons come from? Wow. Brain fart. Big time. But they end up with the Flintstones, and it's mainly just Fred and Barney, and it ends up with some comedy because there's dinosaurs and Booster being Booster, trying to get his way out of it. He tries to reach out to the time stream multiple times to get some help, and every time he does, something bad is happening because the time traveler he's reached out to is at this notable moment in history. And it, like this one time traveler ends up getting eaten by a dinosaur because it gets distracted by Booster. And another one's there at some type of riot and he gets hurt. So Booster ends up talking to Alfred in 1966. So you see like kind of some Batman 66 stuff. And he tells Alfred, can you loan me some money? Put it in this bank account. I only need like $5 because, he's broke in the future. So he uses his basically one lifeline to make himself rich when he gets back home.
Inflation.
Right, right, exactly. And so they end up kind of fixing the time sphere, but not before the rest of the aliens get there that are preaching peace. And they want, they see this dead leader. But Bruce is like, hold on, I have a plan. And because he's cut in half, he starts using him like a puppet to tell him that everything's okay. And it's really morbid, but it's also so Booster. Like him trying to do this and it falls off and you see his hand shaped like a puppet. Still,
and this is where it feels straight out of the Flintstones.
Exactly. And they end up going to the future, and Fred and Barney are still there. And they don't know what to make of it all. And Skeets ends up time traveling, or another one of the time travelers ends up bringing the dead alien prophet to the future to tell the other aliens that what they're doing is wrong. And it's this whole big thing, and they end up sending the Flintstones back, and Fred's with Wilma. He's like, you won't believe the day that I had. Talking with trying to help Booster fix the time sphere and all. So Booster goes and checks his bank account, and at the end it turns out he has like $1 billion, which in the future isn't that much, but it's enough that he can go out on this date and he gets a do-over.
All that interest over however many thousands of years.
Yeah.
This sounds like far more of a Booster Gold issue than a Flintstones.
Yes. It was. The Flintstones are almost background characters. I mean, you see Barney with his junkyard, and it made me want to go and check out the Flintstones ongoing because it's definitely not, Hanna-Barbera's Flintstones. There's more edgy. So the lizard alien is preaching peace, but also the ability to have erections longer than 4 hours and not calling a doctor. And
Wait,
so
what?
the cavemen are yeah.
Wait, hold on,
yeah.
let's not gloss over that. What?
Yeah. And so when Booster shows up and kills them, the cavemen are all kind of like, oh no, now we're gonna have to call a doctor again. So there's some funny jokes and jabs that go throughout, but it's definitely more of a Booster story than a Flintstone story.
Which I think.
But it did, I think.
I think that probably suited Matt more than anything. It's like, oh, this is more of a Booster Gold story. Oh, that'll do me just nicely.
I think that if the goal was to get people to check out the Hanna-Barbera line, I think that does its job, because now I want to go pick up the first trade of Flintstones. Because I've heard good things. I just don't have really the room in my poll to check it out.
I like Flintstones as a kid. I don't think I like it enough to want to read a comic about it. Whereas Power Rangers, I'm like, oh, Power Rangers comic. Okay.
I think that's what interests me about what they're doing with the Hanna-Barbera line. It's not exactly what you saw as a kid. It is edgy. I mean, sometimes it works. Sometimes, and obviously, the Scooby-Doo one didn't work so much. But maybe Flintstones does.
Maybe.
And so the backup is that Jetsons that Connor and Palmiotti did, and it's kind of in the vein of Flintstones, in that it's familiar, but it's not quite the same, and it deals with George's mom, who's dying, is talking with Judy, and because they're the closest, and there's like this whole end of life thing. It's almost like she's choosing like doctor-assisted suicide, but she's not telling the rest of the family, just Judy. And they're trying to locate her, the rest of the Jetsons, when they finally turn her tracker on, which they didn't want to do because they don't want to deal with an angry teenager. Because, thousands of years in the future, who does still want to deal with an angry teenager? They end up finding that Grandma has become Rosie, the robot maid. So that's how they're setting that up. But it's kind of a sweet and dark story of an old woman trying to have one last moment with her granddaughter, before she goes through this. So, again, not quite Hanna-Barbera as I remember it, but still good enough that I might check that out. I hate when DC does this type of stuff where there's so much I want to read, I just don't have time and space for it.
I think I might have seen half an episode of Jetsons once.
I love
really?
Jetsons.
When I was like 7, so yeah, I have no, like you were saying names there, I'm like, I have no idea who these people are.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'm with you, Matt.
Yeah, it was. I actually, as a kid, preferred Jetsons to Flintstones just because of the future and flying cars and.
I could see that. That said, I prefer the future, but I do like dinosaurs. So.
As do I.
Yeah.
So
what's not to love about dinosaurs?
There's that fan theory that actually Jetsons is a prequel to Flintstones, because of the talking animals and the dinosaurs, and once they can reclaim Earth and get back on the land, they restart kind of being primitive. So they've cloned dinosaurs, but they're living in rock houses, and they've forgotten about all that. So they're a people with amnesia. That's why they're the modern Stone Age family. So, stuff you find on the internet.